So today we are going to continue exactly from where we stopped. In the last class, you remember we wrote unit tests. We actually did introduction to unit tests. But today we are going to be doing actually we did part 39, but today we are going to be doing attach Angular UI. So we are going to build an Angular UI that's going to fetch data from our application. But there's something you should know. Our application is not an API, it's called a structured monolith. A structured monolith is a combination of everything you need, both the API and the UI combined into one application. So that is what we have currently. But I'm going to show you that you can also destructure this application into API and UI. In this case, we're going to be having Angular UI. We're going to be building it right now. And I'm going to show you how to destructure this application to have a REST API as well. So let's go ahead to get started. Now, if we run this application and go to /countries, we don't have list of countries because it's not a REST API. So we're going to now create a folder that is going to hold the controllers or the REST controllers for this application. So first, let's go to visit. The URL for this application so that we can see exactly what we have. So currently, if I go to HTTP localhost port 8081, I think that's where it is running. We have our application still working perfectly well. And if I go to parameters home, go to countries, I have list of countries. But now we want to have countries having a list as a JSON object so that we can consume it in the UI built with Angular. So that's what we want to do. So if you are joining for the first time, it may be necessary to go to continue from the first part, or if you know what you are doing, you can actually check the playlist and actually go to the parts you think you might need some help. If you have challenges, also do let me know. So this is where we are. So at this point, I'm going to now go to this is a fleet. And we have controllers. These are all our controllers. They are not REST controllers. They are just controllers. So I'm going to right click on this on the fleet and create a folder that's going to hold, or a package that is going to hold the REST controllers. So I'm going to call this REST APIs. So it's going to hold exactly the same thing, but in this case, it's not going to be returning HTML template. It's going to return list of JSON object. So basically, I'm going to create, like in this case, I have country controller. In the API, I'm going to now create country REST controller. Country REST controller. And that is what you should do. After creating it, you need to annotate it this time. This is very important. Annotate it with @RESTController. So this is what makes the difference. Actually, you can also make the existing controller return JSON, but you need to write a second method and use @requestBody annotation. That is going to mix up things. It's better to have your REST controllers in a different package so that you may want to have an API and a UI separately. So that's what we call decomposing a structured monolith into microservices. So basically, we are going to copy the same method from our parameters. So I have parameters controller. So I have country controller here. So I'm going to copy this method that returns actually list of countries and also the service onto the country controller right here. And in this case, we don't return parameters countries. We simply return countries, and we don't need the model at this time. So I'm going to remove the model, and we are going to return here list of country. List of country. Okay, so and we actually have to use API. So if we have /API prefixing the URL mapping, then we know that we are looking for API. But if you have /parameters/countries, we are looking for the template, the HTML template. So if I run this application now, if I go to /API/parameters/countries, I expect to have a list of JSON objects, which are the list of countries. So if I go here now and replace this with API/, you can have the list of countries right here. Okay, I think this is pretty clear. So you can actually convert different methods or different controllers into REST controller. Actually, don't change them. Simply have a new set of REST API controllers there. All right, so let's go to the fun part now. Let's build an Angular UI. So I'm going to my terminal here. We are building an Angular UI. Actually, I'm going to show you the step-by-step, which I'm actually going to be following here. So if you go to monolith.com, I'm going to put a link in the description box of this video. I think monolith.com/Angular. Yeah, it should be this. Yeah. So it should be part 1, which says setup. I think so. Yeah. So it's part 1, setup. So this is what we are going to be following now. Set up an Angular app. So I'm going to go back to here. Now I'm going to cd ... to go back to go to the parent directory. So don't create the Angular UI inside your application folder. So you need to be careful about this. Yeah. So I'm now outside the FleetMS v2 folder. Take note, you have to come out from that FleetMS version 2 folder. And now I'm going to say ng new. I'm going to call it MS v2 UI. Okay, so that's the name of this UI application I'm going to build in Angular. I'm going to hit the enter key, and it's going to create CES, add routing, and hit enter key, and it's going to create this application for us. And it says a number of things. Now, if you have an error like this, you are going to use, it says this command, fix the upstream dependency conflict and stuff like that. So just copy this, and just say, actually, this error is not a problem. Say npm. First, we can actually go into the Fleet MS UI we created. So I'm going to cd into that. So I'm going to say cd, and I'm going to run the command npm install, and I'm going to paste what I copied here, and it should be perfectly well. So if I go to the step-by-step here, so this is where we currently are, which says set up an Angular app, which is what we did now. And we are going to serve up that application just to see it's working. Okay, but it's still installing some things. So when you see some warnings like this, actually you can safely ignore them. Yeah, so we have our application has been set up. So I'm going to clear my console. So how do I know? I can just say ng serve to serve up this application so that we can actually see the UI we are building. And after that, we are going to open this application in IntelliJ as well, so that we can actually leverage the functionalities of IntelliJ. So once it starts up, it's going to give us a URL where we can visit. We don't need to set the URL manually. And the port number is default port number of 4200, as you can see right here. So this is our Angular UI setup right now. Now let's look at the next step. We need to install a few libraries. We need Bootstrap and Awesome. So I'm going to simply copy all of them. I'm going to copy all of them, and okay. So we can actually open our application right now in IntelliJ. So I'm going to say ng. I'm going to open. Yeah. So I think it should be somewhere. So let me look for it. File, open. And we call it FleetMS v2 UI. I know where it is. It's in my document, and this is it, and I'm going to open it. So this is our Angular UI application. If you look at the configuration here, you can see Angular CLI server. And if you look at the application structure here, you can see that we have the SRC, we have a number of things. This is not an Angular tutorial, but if you want to go in depth into Angular, you have the step-by-step here. I've provided here. So let's install Bootstrap, install from Awesome, install Angular materials. These are UI libraries that help you design an excellent, amazing UI. So I'm going to go back here. So let me just stop this. I'm going to close this. Okay, so these are UI, that is fine. So I'm going to terminal. So let's install a number of things. npm install Bootstrap, that's our save, and that is for Bootstrap. The next one is from Awesome, then we have Angular material. So let's go back here. So it's fine. npm install Angular material -- save, and it's going to install. And the next one should be font awesome. So let's wait for a second. It installed. npm install font awesome -- save, and it also installs. And finally, we actually may not need all this for now, but in case you want to go further in building this UI, or in case we want to make this UI look a bit more amazing, then we are going to be using them. So let's see. So font awesome, we have a typo here, so it's going to be font awesome like this. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to have this as well. So having set up all these UI libraries, we now have to proceed to add the Bootstrap CSS into the style.css file. So I have the procedure here. So I'm going to copy this and actually paste it in the style.css. If I go to my style.css right here, I'm going to just paste this here. Okay, so we have to create two components. I need a home component. I also need a countries component because I want to use the home component to display the home page and the countries component to display the list of countries coming from the API in Spring Boot. So we are going to create two components. For now, if you don't understand what is happening, no problem. With time, it's going to be clear to you. But for now, don't worry. Just follow the procedure and try to understand what I explained. So I'm going to say ng generate component home. Okay, so that's the syntax to create a component. The component is simply more or less like a page. Think of it as a page as well as a script that will be running in that page, as well as the CSS or the style sheet that is going to also be controlling this page. So I'm going to create another component. I'm going to call it country component. So after creating the component, if you now look at the SRC, go to app, you see there are two components here, country and home. Okay. Now we want when a user visits /home, it goes to the home component. If a user visits /country, it goes to the countries component. To achieve that, we are going to be adding Angular routing. It's also explained here in my website. So to do that, you simply go to app routing module, and in this route, you are going to add two routes. To save time, I'm just going to copy the routes that has been defined here and simply paste it there, and then we are going to modify. So I'm going to paste it right here, and here we have the home component. So component is a home component, and this one is going to be the country. Actually, you don't have to copy and paste because if you copy and paste, it's not going to do the automatic import for you like here. So it means that you need to type out this manually. So actually write it. So it gives you the auto completion. When you auto complete, it's going to import the needed modules into your file. So this is home, this is country, to show a list of countries, and this is what we have right now. Okay, so let's test these components to make sure it's working, but before then, let's see what the next step is. So we have to set up some templates. Okay, template is what you already know, like we have a layout template that gives us a page design of the application. So if I copy this, I'm going to take this and use it in the app component. App component is like the parent component of our UI. So app component is what we have here, all this. So we are going to go to the app component.html, and we are going to delete a whole lot of things from here. But before we delete, let's run this application to see. I think I did run it. Okay, I already run it to show you. So we are going to delete all this trash here because we don't need it. So let's just delete everything. So I'm deleting everything and I'm pasting this nav bar. So this nav bar is being pasted now. So if I save, it should update our UI. So if I refresh, okay, it's not updating because we need to rerun this application. So if I say ng serve it should run this application, and then we are going to see the updated UI, and we actually can visit the routes that we have defined in this application. So let's see how it plays out right now. So it starts, and if I go back here and refresh this page, you can see that we have the UI. It says home works because there's a route where you don't specify anything. It goes to the home component. What do I mean? If I go to the routing, you see this part here that says empty. The part is empty. If it's empty, then it's going to go to the home component. If you also go to /home, it's also going to go to the home component as well. And if we now go to /countries, countries is now going to go to the countries component. As you can see, it says countries works. Okay, so let's play around to improve our UI. So if I scroll down, it says set up the home page. So I'm going to copy this and put it right in the home page. So I'm going to copy this and put it in our home page. So let's go to the home page or the home component, which is actually this. I'm going to just place this right here, and this is going to be /countries, and this is going to be countries. Okay, I'll update the code in the GitHub repository, so in case you miss out something. So we've updated this, and we need to add a little bit of style. I remember why we need to add this, so that we don't have some navigation, some things hiding behind the navigation bar. So I'm going to copy this into the style.css file right here. So if I save everything now, if you save, it's going to recompile. And if I go back to the UI, you have this is countries. If I go back home now, you have home. So now you can now create the same cards that we use in our FleetMS. Remember, we had cards we used. Like if I go back to take out this, and we come back here and we go to parameters home, we have these cards here. But now we have a card looking a little different for this UI. So you can decide to create a card looking better. So for now, we don't have a list of countries here. Let's now make this UI fetch lists of countries from the API backend, which is actually API/parameters/countries. So let's make this happen. Again, the procedure is here. So if we go to part 2 of this same page, you see we need to do a number of things. So let's see. So the first thing we want to do is to add the HttpClient module. So in our Angular UI, go to app module, and in the import section, we are going to use as a module that's going to help us make GET requests. So that module is called HttpClient module, like this. So you're going to add it here, and the next step says, so with this step here, I'll skip it because it's not necessary. We don't need to redefine the Peugeot, the object again in the UI, but sometimes it may be necessary. We are going to be talking about Angular later in a different lesson, not here. Okay, so we are going to now go back to the countries component, which is, let's go to the countries component, which is this one right here. I'm going to go to the not the HTML, but the TS. And we are going to create a variable that's going to hold the list of countries that will be returned. So it's going to be private, countries is going to be any, and this will be a list of any type. So it means that if it's a country object or whatever, but know that it's a list of items is going to be coming back. And here we are going to create an object of HttpClients, because this is what is going to help us make GET requests. Right. So what we are saying here is that in this TS file, country.ts file, it contains a code that is going to actually fetch data and send back to the UI, okay? All right, so if I go back to the procedure, I go down here a little bit, so you can see the actual code that actually gets the items. So I'm going to actually copy it and paste somewhere here in the TS file, and I'm going to say these as countries, and this is fine. And I also put console.log here just to log out, to log the list of countries coming back from the API. Now the API that returns the list of countries is not in this route, right? So let's go check where it's coming from. So if I come back here and go to, let's go to countries again, which is this, and I go to API slash, and it's coming here. So I'm going to just copy this URL here and tell Angular that this is the URL that's going to contain the list of countries. And we are saying get the URL.subscribe. So it's going to be an asynchronous request response cycle here. So it's going to make this request, and when the data comes in, it's going to log it on the console and also assign it to this place, to this variable countries. So if I save everything now, and if I go back to here, to this place, and I refresh this page, it doesn't work. Of course it works, but I'm not displaying anything in the UI, but I want it to show on the console. So if I go to my console right now, I expect to see the list of countries displayed. So if I refresh this page, it doesn't show nothing. So let's see where the problem is coming from. Oh yeah, so on the init method, we're actually going to call the get countries method. So instead of get countries, I'm going to get friends, I'm going to change it to get countries here. And in init method, I'm going to just say get countries like this. So if I save this now, I expect to see a list of countries displayed in the console. So if I come back here, we refresh the page, and it fails. It says access to blah 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 from origin has been blocked by CORS policy. CORS means cross origin request. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. So what it means is that for you to allow this response to go through, you need to tell the Spring API to allow a request for data coming from the Angular UI at certain ports. So to do that, I'm going to go to my API and tell it, please allow Angular to get data from you, because this is a security related problem. I'm going to say at cross origin, that is fine. If you also look at my website, it's explained right here, as you can see here, okay? So at this point, when I use cross origin in the API, just give me a second. If I use cross origin in the API, it's going to allow the UI to actually fetch data. So I'm going to rerun this API, the Spring Boot API. I'm going to stop and then rerun it. So I'm going to run it one more time. And at this point, it's going to allow Spring Boot Angular to access the data. All right, so if I go back here and then save here, save everything, and then go back to the Angular UI here, and I refresh, and now you can see that we have the data is returned to Angular. This is exactly the data we have in right here, okay? It's coming now as JSON, and Angular is fetching it and displaying it on the console. All right, so at this point, I'm going to stop so that this tutorial will not take too much time. The next lesson, which is actually the same lesson, lesson 40, but lesson 40B, we are now going to take this this data coming now, displayed on the console. We're going to display it on a UI page in the Angular UI. Procedure is also here on my website, so feel free to try it out by yourself to see how it plays out. So I'm going to be stopping here. I hope this has benefited you. And just a little bit of recap. We destructured our Monolith application to have an API coming there. And we created an Angular UI, and we were able to fetch data from the UI, fetching data from the API, the Spring Boot API. And we also were able to use cross-origin annotation to allow the API accept requests coming from the UI, okay? So everything is working perfectly fine now, and the next part we are now going to actually display on the web page. So I'm going to be stopping here. I would like to thank you for viewing. Again, you can take some time to go through what is left to be done. There are a whole lot of things to be done that covers application development, and I would like you to join me by subscribing. Let me know this is informative for you by leaving me a comment, and if you have challenges, feel free to leave me a comment in the comment box below. And I remain Kind the Tech Pro, and I'm always there for you.